All right, so Chris, what's your favorite memory?
Favorite memory is probably when we were studying social psychology. I remember this one activity Mr. Carp did when he was testing how we would conform or when we would probably conform to the people around us. I remember the fact that I was the only one who didn't buy it, and I helped him make it happen to somebody else. I think it was Tommy. It was Tommy, right? Yeah, it was Tommy.
My favorite memory would have to be when we were studying the neurotransmitters. There was two different neurotransmitters. One was called norepinephrine and the other one was called epinephrine. And there was this kid in our class, he didn't know how to pronounce it, and he called it norepinephrine, and everyone thought that was really funny, and that helped me remember for the test.
My favorite memory is when Carp was trying to get us all to be quiet, and he was counting down, so he was like 5, 4, 3, 2, and then when he got to 1, Christian yelled, "Happy New Year!" And then we got him these glasses as a memory of that, and it was really funny, and it's one of our inside jokes now.
My favorite memory in psych was probably when we were studying social psychology, and we were talking about like social norms nowadays and everything, and Christian was trying to say something, and he said prenatal sex, and claimed that he never heard the word premarital in his life.
All right, so Christian, what was your favorite activity?
Favorite activity was probably when we were making model-ups of the brain, for one reason only. So, fun story, when we were in groups when we were making these models, and my group, we all had to do our own separate part of the brain. I was supposed to present the brain stem. When it was my turn to present the brain stem, the very first thing I said was, "This is the brain stem. Trust me, it's not a wiener. Trust me." I am going to put that as the quote on my in the senior yearbook, and no one can tell me otherwise.
My favorite activity was one of the projects that he made us do. He made us teach one of the units for a test grade, and when we took the test, we all did really, really bad because we were not certified AP psychology teachers, but it was still fun to teach lessons, so it was an interesting experience.
My favorite activity was probably a project that we did in the beginning of the year, where we could pick between like doing a model of the brain, which is when Christian did the brain stem, or doing like a music video to like a popular song. So Luna and I, we did a song about the parts of the brain, but to Can We Just Talk, the one that's like that, but we called it Can We Just Think?
Can't we just think about the parts of the brain to ace the AP?
And it's really good. You guys should look up the Think song on YouTube.
My favorite activity in psych was probably when we had to make personality disorders cookbook, and I did 7-layer DID dip, and it makes sense, trust me.
What was your favorite unit?
That was probably Unit 14, Social Psychology. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought Unit 14 was going to be one of the first ones that we were going to cover, and I was really disappointed when we didn't, because that's the one that has all of the info that you'd probably expect and that you'd probably learn from the most in the psychology class. That one was probably the most applicable of any unit ever at all.
My favorite unit would have to be Unit 12. It was about all the different disorders that we learned about, like schizophrenia. There was a lot of eating disorders, stuff like that. That was really interesting, and we also did an interesting project that went along with that, so I really liked that unit.
My favorite unit was probably Unit 3, and that's the parts of the brain. And it's probably my favorite because we watched this video about this really quirky guy, but he comes up with a bunch of mnemonics for all the parts of the brain and like what they do, and it's super helpful, and it really helped me remember.
My favorite unit was probably Unit 10, personality. The beginning is kind of boring, not gonna lie, but later on it gets a lot better.
What was your favorite vocab word?
Probably the term resilience. It speaks a lot to me. It reminds me of me and what my dad thinks of me. If you really get to know me, I'm actually quite resilient. You have no idea how. especially considering I'm gonna, by the time this is up, I'm probably in senior year dealing with about 4 APs, college applications, but I still somehow managed to get through it.
My favorite term was probably savant syndrome, which basically means someone who has like some sort of like mental retardation is like really good at like doing one specific thing. So we learned about this guy that he suffered from like ADHD or something like that, and they took him on like a helicopter ride over like the skyline of New York, and he was able to draw the skyline exactly just from memory, and I thought that was really cool.
My favorite psych term would probably be social facilitation. And that's basically that we perform better when other people are watching us.
What was your favorite applicable concept?
Probably social loafing, because it's that one term that I know for a fact at least one of you have done. And do not try to deny it, because I know, because I've been that person. You could use that term to call out anyone who does not do the group work from now on. I want you to do that. Can you do that?
My favorite applicable concept would have had to be the Yerkes-Dodson law, which basically means that you perform best when you're moderately aroused, not when you're too aroused, like way too stressed out, or not when you're not like enough, like you're not really worried about what's going on like at all. And it's basically like a curve graph, and that shows up a lot on FRQs, so you should definitely learn that one.
My favorite applicable term is probably the different types of parenting styles. So like there's authoritarian and like authoritative, and I think it's my favorite because it really tells me like the impact that parenting styles have on their kids, so it shows me like how I would want to parent my kids.
My favorite applicable concept was probably classical conditioning, because you can basically classically condition anything or anyone for anything.
Who was your favorite psychologist?
Probably Sigmund Freud, and not because he's the stereotypical psychologist everyone knows him for, but because of like that one term that I found while reading the book. It's called latent content. It refers to the deeper meaning behind a dream. Spoiler alert for the book. Apparently, what follows after, according to that term, a gun in a dream is supposed to represent. Take a moment to let that sink in.
My favorite psychologist would have to be probably James Flynn. He's not one of the better known ones, but he figured out what's called the Flynn effect, which basically he studied a ton of IQ scores from the past years, and he figured out that with each coming like decade, the IQ scores get like this much higher, so I thought that was really interesting.
My favorite psychologist is probably Wilhelm Wundt. Wundt with a V? Wilhelm Wundt.
So W
So is it Wilhelm too? That's because he's the father of psychology, and then Carp said, turn down for Wundt. Turn down for Wundt. And that really helped me remember it.
My favorite psychologist, we barely spoke about her. We only said one thing. Her name is Karen Horney, spelled horny, and sent me. That was her concept.
One, 2, 3.
Day 2!
Got any words of wisdom for the next upcoming psychology class?
I hope we all have mastered the ability to remember. I'd be surprised if you didn't, because if you can't remember your terms and people like the back of your hand, you're gonna have a bad time. Also, notes. Notes are important.
Words of wisdom on half for the next class is definitely take your notes when he does open note quizzes. Sometimes the modules are going to be really, really long. At least go through like the bold terms, because that really, really helps if you don't want to take notes on like 70 pages. But like it'll definitely boost your grade if you do really well on the quiz. So that, and also for the terms quizzes, like the Quizlets, don't forget to study them, because that helps a lot.
Some words of wisdom that I would give is probably to like space out your studying, like don't cram. You'll learn that cramming is bad. and make sure you get a lot of sleep like the day before you take a big test, because we don't really take a lot of tests, so you have to make sure you do really well on the test that like you do take each quarter. So make sure you study a lot and make like a lot of mnemonics, because that helps me at least.
My words of wisdom for the next class will probably be do the Quizlets, like definitely do the Quizlets, especially for like vocab quizzes and stuff like that. It really, really helps.
Do you have any tips for the exam?
Remember that advice, those words of wisdom that I gave you? Alright, so I'm gonna need you to do that, but better. Okay? And I know that sounds basic, but I mean, who else are you gonna take it from? You're looking at somebody who's already taken it, who's experienced it. I know exactly what it's like. Just take my word for it, okay? Also, don't cram. Cramming's bad. Don't do it.
Definitely a tip I would have for the exam is, first of all, don't cram. That's not good. Make sure you study, start studying at least a week before in increments of time. And also online, there's practice tests for each unit, from different websites, which really help. And also study the 705 term Quizlet. That is really going to help you for the exam.
My AP exam tip would probably be that there's these two guys on YouTube, and one of them's Indian and the other one's white, and they do reviews for every single unit. So if you just watch all of those and go over the notes, I think you'll be okay, because those videos, they're spot on. 10 out of 10.
My tip for the AP exam would probably just be don't overthink it. It's definitely not that hard. It's just, if you know your stuff, you know it. That's it.
I think you just need to press record.
Or if not...
Do I cut?
3, 2.
I forgot.
2.
So, some sort of words.
I'm so sorry.
He was dancing.
Should we have a floss photo? I think we should.
Don't leave anything for the night before.
7-layer DID. A recipe book.
I know, but
A cookbook. Personality disorder.
personality
Yes.
This one. Oh.
No.
Say sorry, Luna.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Say I'm sorry.
I am sorry, Luna.
Okay,
I
good.
did not.
Happy New Year! 5, 4, 3, 2.
Aren't you gonna sing one?
1.
Go.
Happy New Year.
Yeah!
Because you're hot and you're cold.
You're yes and you're no.
You're in.
And you're out, like up and you're down.
You're wrong when you're right. Say you.
You don't really wanna say no.
You.
Hot and you're cold. Yes and you're no.
Yeah!